Hello, hi, welcome back to another BookTube video. It's been a little while, although not that long really, but I did all the Walter Scott Prize long list books, 12 of them in a row, so I've had a little break, done some studying, but I did say I wanted to get back to my Victorian literature. It's been a long time since I've read any of those, and Anthony Trollope's Barsetshire Chronicles have been on my mind for a while now, and I've wanted to get them started, so I just did it. So I started the first book in the Chronicles, which is The Warden. So The Warden is short. The other books in the Chronicles look quite a bit longer. I have also been made aware from a couple of videos on this book in particular that it's maybe not the best in the Chronicles, not the most exciting, and can be maybe a little bit dull in its content. But, you know, I didn't find that overly. I wouldn't give it 5 stars, but I would give it 4. And that's only because, one, the shortness of it, I feel like it could have been pushed a bit more, but also in the middle of it, there's a bit where a character, Mr. Bold, goes to London to try and undo something. And there's just a bit of filler in there that I just think is unnecessary. It's all very wordy and just, it's all about Greek gods. And I just think it was unnecessary and it was just kind of a bit boring to me, but only such a small bit. It doesn't take away from the rest of the novel. But I want to start off with a quick short quote. Now, this quote, I think, sums up The Warden perfectly, and it's from Henry James in an article, Anthony Trollope, from Century magazine in 1883. And he says, "The Warden is the history of an old man's conscience." And I just think that's perfectly what the whole story condensed is. So we have the Mr. Bold, who is a young sort of revolutionary reformist, and he's in love with Eleanor. Now, Eleanor is the daughter of the warden, Mr. Harding. Septimus Harding, he's the warden of this almshouse. And an almshouse is just like, they also call it a hospital, Hiram's Hospital. And it's a place for older gentlemen to go. And they had quite a few over the country. But this one based in the fictional little town, village close, cathedral close, I think is the terminology, of Barchester. So yeah, there's 12 men here, and it's a place where these men, they've lived all their life in Barchester, they've worked, and then they're getting older, they've maybe lost family, and if they become slightly infirm, they've got nowhere else to turn to, and they can't afford to keep themselves. This hospital is meant for them to go to, or this almshouse, and they're kind of taken care of, they get given a bit of money, they get fed. So this particular fictional almshouse was brought into existence by a guy called Hiram, and he, centuries before, left all this money in his will for the purpose of this almshouse. So we now jump forward to the 1800s, mid-1800s, and John Bold, the revolutionary, the reformist, is concerned that the money going to this almshouse is all going to the warden and not to the elderly gentlemen who reside there, and he believes that the money should be shared more equally among them. For example, the warden himself gets £800 a year, and the 12 elderly gentlemen don't even see that sort of money. So John Bold puts it into these gentlemen's heads, lawyers are involved, and then we get to a place where a newspaper is publishing articles about Mr. Harding. He feels really bad. It plays on his conscience, and he gets to the point where he thinks he has to give it up. He has to give up his whole livelihood, give up everything he has, because he feels so badly about this situation he finds himself in. Even though he's been doing it for years, he's now questioning whether actually he is doing the right thing by taking this money, and he hasn't seen the will, Hiram's will. He doesn't actually know what really the terms are, but his conscience won't let him carry on taking that sort of money from Hiram's will when these old gentlemen aren't getting as much as he thinks they should now. It's quite a fun way how it turns around at the end when, you know, these old gentlemen are kind of fighting to get all this money, and they probably end up worse off, in my opinion. But it's, you know, their own sort of, you know, the way they acted up to that point, and then they get to the end and think, oh, did we have to do that? Should we have done that? What I like about The Warden, so I thought it was going to be fairly boring, but it wasn't at all. And to me, it feels very similar to the way we live now in that it's very, I find it satirical in ways. So even the bits that you feel like you should be feeling sorry or sad, especially for Mr. Harding, I don't as much. I still find it not like funny or hilarious, but it's kind of like there is a bit of humour running throughout it. And I did enjoy the story. And it also gave me slight Middlemarch vibes, only just slight. And I think that's probably the provincial town goings-ons, sort of that sort of thing. The Warden does cover a couple of topics that were popular in the Victorian era. We've got the state of the country, the condition of England question, although more popularly done, I would imagine, in stuff like Dickens' Hard Times or Gaskell's North and South or Mary Barton. They really tackle the issue of the poor, the conditions are like for the poor, the working conditions. Here we tackle different issues. So it's the misuse of charities sort of issue, which was a thing. And one of the cases in the book is mentioned by Trollope. Is actually a real case, which I just found out reading the beginning of the introduction. So a real case is actually mentioned where there was this almshouse and there was this reverend who was taking all this money, and it went to court and they were decided that actually the person, the warden, the reverend, shouldn't be getting as much money. So it seems that Trollope has been influenced somewhat by these goings-ons, these misuses of charity money, the fraud with these charities and trusts. So it's like a condition of England question, but not as hard-hitting, as I say, as Dickens or Gaskell, but still quite relevant in the mid-Victorian era. So we have that, and it's really interesting, actually. It's a different take on another issue in the Victorian issue, because we hear about the poverty and the poor law, the working conditions, but actually this misuse of charity trust money was new for me, and I found it quite interesting. Another slight theme running throughout is the love story, but it's not a gushing love story like you'll find in a Bronte novel. It's once again an air of satirical edge to it. Not complete satirical, but it just feels like even the loving bits or the touching bits still feel slightly humorous in a way, but quite enjoyable at the same time. So yeah, I really enjoyed The Warden. I say it's only because it's maybe too short and there's a little bit in the middle that I didn't think needed to be there, that I give it 4 stars. But overall, it's got me excited for reading the rest of the Chronicles. I wasn't sure if I was going to dive straight into the next one or read something else, but I do think I'm going to start with Barchester Towers, the second book in the Chronicles. But yeah, The Warden, really nice, short, about 160 odd pages, and a really nice tale. If you enjoy a Victorian tale about something maybe you've not read about before, I say the ongoings in this almshouse, church sort of democracy, is that the right word? It's not really the right word because it's not very democratic. But the goings on with the management of the churches, because it's the actual bishop who appoints the warden. And, you know, we then see the deacon, who is the bishop's son, get involved, and he tries to keep the warden on. But the warden's having none of it. His conscience has got to him. And yeah, we see the politics play out in the church. And yeah, it's really interesting. I probably haven't explained that at all very well. But if you like sort of Victorian novels with something a bit different, like Middlemarch, a lot of people hate it, Middlemarch, or think it's just a bit too dull. I quite enjoyed it. It's that sort of just everyday life in a Victorian sort of village or town. And that's what I quite like. You know, nothing really exciting is going on, but it's actually quite interesting. But then I love the Victorian period. So yeah, that's my thoughts on The Warden. Rabbled a lot there. It'll probably be a while until I do my next video because I'm kind of concentrating on the studying at the moment, trying to get this A-level so I am ready to take the exams next year. But yeah, have you read The Warden? What do you think? And have you got any more recommendations along the same lines, you know, like Middlemarch, The Warden, or any sort of Victorian? I've got still so many on my shelf that I need to read, and it's probably take me years, but I'll get there. Anyway, in the meantime, thanks for watching. Bye.